Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of the RAW Barbell Club Podcast. On today's episode, I have Trent Nguyen from Miyagi Strength. He was the former owner of PTC Sydney. You may know of him as a powerlifting coach, a strength coach, and he's doing a bunch of coaching out of BodyFit now as well. Trent has an interesting history in strength sports. He's been a coach for a long time. In this podcast, we talk about training athletes for powerlifting, specifically training athletes in raw powerlifting versus geared powerlifting. So that's wearing knee wraps, uh, bench shirts, that sort of thing. We also talk about PEDs in sports. Trent has some experience with training athletes on PEDs, something that I've always been interested in, even though I've never done it, neither do I endorse it. And Trent has also struggled with other things. So Trent was obviously locked up for a period of time due to drug-related charges. We talk briefly about that, but we kind of run out of time. So it's something that I would love to visit at a later date. Guys, this is a really interesting conversation with someone that I literally just met. So thank you, Amelia, for linking us together. I really appreciate that, and it's a really cool podcast. If you like this podcast, please find a friend, slap them in the face, and tell them to listen to this episode. It's a really good one. And if every single person that does that to someone else and to someone else, that's basically how we get 5 listens on this episode. If you really, really want to support the podcast, please consider sharing it on your social media. That's just another opportunity for another bunch of people to be exposed to the podcast. And the more listeners we have, the more we grow, and the more opportunities we have for guests and even things like sponsorship opportunities. If you really, really want to support us, you now can. Making this podcast is a lot of fun, but it does cost us a fair bit of money in terms of hosting fees, bandwidth costs, and all the in-between. So you now can. All we're asking for is a small donation, the price of a coffee. If every single person that listened to this podcast donated a coffee, we'd have enough money to keep this podcast going for another 3 months. Thank you to every single person that has already donated. And if you're thinking about donating, all you have to do is go to rawbarbellclub.com/donate. That's rawbarbellclub.com/donate. Or I'm sure there is a link in the description as well. Guys, if you're sick of having sore thumbs, you can buy Weightlifting House thumb tape on our website now. So please go on and order some of that. It is amazing for those that are using hook grip. And we're doing a pre-order on Weightlifting House barbells. So we've so far have 13 orders. We need 30 orders to make this pre-order go through. So thank you to everyone who's already pre-ordered in such a short amount of time. So we need 30 orders to go through, and those bars are amazing. 10 needle bearing bars. They have the whip of the gods, so I've heard. And I'm so excited to get one myself. And that's the real reason I'm doing this pre-order. So if you guys are interested in getting a bar, please jump on that as well. Just go to rawbarbellclub.com and look up our shop, and you'll be able to find that there. Guys, enough chatting. Let's get onto this podcast. Let me introduce you to Trent. Dude, first off, are you happy to just start and then we'll roll into it?
No, just ask me away. Yeah, just ask and I'll
Okay,
reply. I'm easy. I'll answer anything. So yeah,
awesome, man. Firstly, appreciate you for doing
yeah.
this. Um, how are you going in isolation, man?
Oh, it's all right. I've been doing it online for like 6 years now, so it hasn't really made a difference. It has
Yeah,
it hasn't changed the way I do things. Obviously, my face-to-face coaching is gone, like everyone else's. So you also run a gym, I assume. Is that correct?
yeah.
Yeah,
So I own a gym called RAW Barbell
yeah. I
Club.
think I've heard of that. I've been around this game for like 10 years now, so I know I was one of the first powerlifting gyms in New South Wales. So uh,
Yes, so I like to do like a bit of research when I do these
Yeah,
podcasts, and I found like this old Reddit thread where you're like, "Hey, I'm thinking about opening a PTC in
yeah,
Sydney.
yeah,
Where should I open
yeah.
it?"
That
And that's in like 2001.
yeah, it's a long time ago. Actually, 15 years ago.
No, 2011,
Yeah,
2011.
around 10 years. Yeah, yeah. Yeah. No, that's so. Yeah, just the face to face stuff, as you know, it's all gone. So there it is. That's and I've been online for like 6 weeks, 6 months, 6 years. Sorry, what's going on? Geez, a long time. Geez, I'm a dinosaur. 15 years I've been doing this, so I don't remember the years, the days. I don't know what that day is it today. I thought it was Sunday.
Man, it's so easy to lose
Yeah,
track of days because, especially for us, like coaches and PTs, we're so used to like waking up at a certain
yeah,
time, leaving the gym at a certain time. Like
yeah,
our days revolve around that kind of work
yeah. Correct,
schedule.
correct, correct.
Are you normally an early riser?
Yeah, not really. Which I'll get into a bit more. Is yeah, I get around about. I start at 9. I'll finish at 4 o'clock coaching. Yeah.
Okay.
Uh,
Yeah, so you did the smart thing and decided to go like 9 till 5 basically,
I know.
whereas a lot
Yeah,
of PTs are like 5 a.m. till
I don't need to
you
do
know
that
10
anymore. No,
a.m.
not
10
anymore.
p.m.
Like my client base is quite a fair bit. Uh, like other train, I'm not. I don't classify me as a PT. Like I'm more a coach, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's just more. I do the higher end stuff now. I don't really coach too much Gen Pop. Sometimes I do, but if they show promise, I'll be coaching them. Otherwise, I don't really deal with the ones that want to go for like 2 weeks and then piss off kind of thing. That's not me. I quite selective. Not in an arrogant
Yeah.
way. More just I just don't really do that. There's other trainers for that. That kind of thing.
Like you've sort of like
Specialization.
narrowed out your
Yeah,
niche.
and yeah, as you know as well, like you own a strength gym, so you know where I'm coming from. At the same time,
Oh yeah, for
yeah,
sure.
yeah,
Like I hate like I won't take on anyone who's just in my gym to like just like lose weight
yeah,
or whatever. Like if that's a secondary thing or if I already have a pre-established relationship
yeah,
with them, then I'll help them with
correct.
that. But usually people will come to me
Yeah,
because they want to improve their weightlifting, their strongman, their powerlifting, that sort of
yeah.
thing.
Oh, look, the byproduct, as we both know, is they'll lose weight anyway, or recom, So
Yeah.
it's, but I just want them. They come to me. They already have an idea. That's secondary. That they already know that they're going to lose weight. They just need to know the methods and the methodology, and think of us as the GPS to help them get there. To lose that anyway. But yeah, that's the main thing that at the moment that I do. So yeah, do you want to shoot off a couple of questions and we'll go from there? Yeah.
Yeah, man. Okay, so I guess the first thing is like, are you training yourself right now?
I haven't touched a barbell in six weeks. I haven't competed in a long time. I'm moved away from complete powerlifting and strongman and weightlifting and all that. More trying to get it to the masses at the moment, like a hybrid model. So it's like
Yeah,
Steffi Cohen and those guys over there. Yeah, they
yeah,
do the hybrid. That's what my goal is to. I found that yeah, it's just I'm deviating a bit, but I'm moving myself more towards general strength and fitness kind of thing. So it's more getting the Gen Pop who see the value in strength to give them the guidance as they need, apart from just doing burpees and all the other stuff that that most of them do, is get on a barbell and then teach them how to do the lifting and whatever form of lifting they want to do, whether it be snatches, cleans, or squat and bench, whatever it is. They'll be there to teach them and then give them the programming to guide them on that way to start really seeing drastic changes in their body versus whatever they were doing before. Uh, you know,
when people come to you, are they usually pre-trained? Like, have they been doing something like CrossFit or some sort of boot camp,
yeah.
or are they pretty fresh?
Majority of my clients, 50%, 6% are actually personal trainers themselves. So they're
Okay.
ready. They're the industry is a bit funny. Is that the trainers don't train the clients the same way they train themselves. We know this. I know you can
Yeah.
have a laugh. So, but so they obviously need the next step, and I'm my coach's coach. So I 56% of them are obviously trainers or exercise physiologists or whatnot. They all have all the theory, but they don't have the experience, which I have with my 15 years, of doing this.
Yeah.
So I think some of them are only 19. I've been doing this as long as they've been alive. So when they were doing it, I was doing all that, just learning to walk. So yeah, they're the ones that just come out, and the rest already. Yes, they do have a idea already. Most of them starting done the five, the starting strength, strong list, and all that,
Yeah.
the
Repertoire
Repito
stuff.
stuff. And then obviously as I've found out, and I'm sure you know as well, it stagnates after a while because it is supposed to be only for starting. That's why it's called starting strength, and it gets you so far, and then specificity has to come in for them to reach that next level where they've milked that newbie gains for as long as they can. So that's where I come in and I help them to really nut out what it is that they need to progress in. So yeah.
So what when you get someone new, let's say you get a trainer or a coach that's coming in to learn from you, what's sort of like the first thing that you look at in their movement?
Okay, so I do function movement screaming or also FMA as well. So
The Grey Cook stuff?
sorry.
The Grey Cook? Is that the Grey
The Grey
Cook
Cook
stuff? The
stuff,
FMA?
yeah, but
FMS?
I do from ASCA, so I'm ASCA certified
Okay.
as well. I'm doing my level 2 soon. Don't know why I'm doing it, but anyway, I just like doing it, and also the FMA stuff. So there, go, yeah, the cook stuff as well as you said. There's a few of them around that teach that, but also stuff that I've picked up over the years, just by getting someone to do an overhead squat, like that with a barbell kind of thing, or a dowel rod, I mean, broomstick. So that'll just
Yeah.
show me where they have a form breakdown, where also shows me if they've been injured without even them telling me. I just can tell, and obviously from then I can do the breakdown of where the weaknesses are, the injuries that they've had. They don't. Most people don't even know their old injuries are causing them um, to lift a certain way. Because the body, as we know, adapts. If there was an injury, it would adapt, not in a preferable way, more just so that we can keep on moving. You know what I mean? We've seen guys one arm, one leg on those YouTube, Facebook videos doing construction work. You know what I mean? It's because the body
Mm.
is just fascinating in that way. But is it the right way? No. It's when you've got if you don't if you've got two arms, two legs, then you should be able to utilize everything. So that's where I come in, and I screen them from the start, and then from there, I've found a lot of people they stop in their progress because of all that mobility and all the rehab stuff, prehab rehab stuff that they ain't doing, and that is from there I will focus on writing the program out according to the movement screening that I do, and that is a difference that I do. I mean, I hopefully a lot of strength coaches should do that, but I know a fair few don't. I'm not. I this is just something I never did it in my beginning years of my coaching because I just thought get on a bar and it'll fix itself. The squat just fixes it. No, it doesn't. And back 10 years ago, the information we have now wasn't available 10 years ago. The internet wasn't rife with all this. It was all forums, and now you can Google on your phone, YouTube, and you know, subtle leopard. Subtle. Well, what's his name? Yeah,
Yeah. Kelly
Chris.
Starr.
I used to love his work. He talks too much, but I love his work. I put him on mute and watch him do stuff. But those kind of things. I love the guy. But yeah, we never used to have that a decade ago, or even before that when I started getting it to strength train as well. So yeah, from there I'll devise a program once I see someone. If that answers that question.
Yeah, yeah, no, it does. I'm always interested to see what the first step is when a coach gets another coach in to train
Yeah,
them, because a lot of the time, you know, you get one of two things. They just throw them straight into a program, or they will, you know, sit them down and say, hey, I want to have a look at your movement. I know that you're, you know, also an expert in this field, but you've come to me for help. Let's see what it is that is breaking down so that we can take the next step. Like anyone can program, like, let's go 10, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2,
yeah,
1 reps, and you know
yeah.
that's how you're gonna do it. But you know, like, if a coach is coming to someone else to coach them, they're obviously looking for the next step, right? The next level.
Correct, absolutely. That's why 56% of my clients are actually coaches, PTs themselves, or they've done 10 years of training themselves, but they've just slowed down because of this and this and this. And the majority of the time that I've found is it's not the program that my saying is any well thought out program will work. You know what I mean? I've seen some really stupidly crazy programs that I go, how the hell does that work? You know what I mean? I was like, it still works because, as I said, the body will adapt to it. Now, whether or not it's good or wrong, it's at the end of the day, it's how much work the guy puts in. If he gets 5 days a week, and he keeps, hitting it and keep going at it, he will get somewhere. You know what I mean? Obviously, but at the same time, 5 days a week, the body will break. Okay, and that's what's stopping these trainers or these clients that have had been doing it for a long time, is that they get to a certain point and then they just stop because of, the prehab rehab wasn't up to the back, the mobility wasn't up to scratch, the recovery wasn't up to scratch, the movement pattern, how they're actually doing the actual lifting, the execution of the actual technique or the motor patterns weren't actually efficient enough for them to take them to, say, 250 to a 300 kilogram squat, for example. You know what I mean? At those level, at those weights, when you're doing triple three times body weight, things start to break really really quick. And if your technical efficiency isn't there, and all the stuff that I just mentioned isn't there, you're not going to get the extra, the weight. And the diminishing returns is very unforgiving at that level as well. And a lot of people just either give up or go. But the ones that uh, seek out my coaching generally do keep progressing and progressing, progressing and progressing, because um, at the end of the day, they just want to lift. They don't want to be too want to think about it too much. You know what I mean? And that's where us as coaches have to come in. We're supplying a solution. We're not here. If the program they're doing looks good, I don't change the program that they're doing. I will give a bit extra. So do this, just to help them, get the cogs out of those, the wheels. They've got little cogs in there. We just want to pull them out so that they can keep progressing. They don't know that there's stuff that's stopping them at the moment. They don't know. That's why they come to us as coach, and that's what I believe. The program, as you said, I agree. People can just download it. I mean, I'm not going to charge them what I usually charge just for a program there. I will give them everything else, the rehab, prehab, and on top of that as well, and the technical execution, the coaching as well. Yeah,
Yeah, that makes sense.
yeah,
You know, when you get someone new, what are some common things that you see as issues? I know everyone is individual, everyone
sure.
has individual like injuries and
Yeah.
stuff, but like, are there some common technical faults that you see let's say basic movements like squats, presses, deadlifts, or hinge
Yeah.
movements?
I think you're absolutely right. Yes, I agree with the individualization. The part that I get is they the for most part, for example, the squat, they they think that the knees shouldn't track over too far over the toes, for example. And we know that comes down to the anatomy. Okay, you can't, if you've got long femurs, you're shit out of luck. They're going to travel over. Okay, but at the same time, they should also be looking at the bar path. as well. Now, if the bar half is going in a zigzag like that, then obviously we know there is something that's going on there at the same time.
Or they like to
Or
party.
they like to party, or they're doing the Zumba, that kind of thing, you know?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't expect the 180 straight 80 linear path, but if it's going like that,
Yeah,
then there's a lot more to it than that. So
for sure.
obviously, I like to go strip it back to the basics. So, are they intra-abdominal bracing properly? You know, is everything firing? Like everything's firing, the muscles are always firing, but are they firing where they need to be at certain aspects?
Is the
There's a
patterning right?
patterning, yeah. So the matter patterns everything just has to sync together at the same time. But that's mainly what I look. But look, I'm in saying that I'm relying that they already know the basics. But if they don't, I'll strip it all the way back. Look, I've had trainers who've been doing it for years and just did it. You know, some were just breathing on the way out, not holding the pressure through the intra abdominal area. You know, breathing to the chest and that, and you know that's just how the industry, PT industry, that's how you talk, obviously. But
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. Exhale on
yeah,
effort, inhale on
yeah,
like the
yeah.
eccentric.
That's it. So it's just, but then to change the mindset, I found a lot of guys that I've been coaching that it's to change. It's more the mental mindset that the patterns that they've built into themselves. It's the old rule is like about 3,000 hours to undo 10,000 hours of perfection of they've been doing it for that long. It's going to take 3,000 hours to unwind it and then relearn it
Yeah,
again. I can't remember. I'm a bit one of those stats guys. I just got to pull this stuff up, but don't quote me on that, by the way. But it takes a while to unlearn what they've done. So so it's whether or not the willingness for them to actually relearn, undo. So the whiteboard is all scribbled. We just got to wipe it all out and then redo it all again. How long it takes to get all those smudges out from that whiteboard? It's that's where the individualization comes in. As a coach, we want to fast track that within safety and reasonable progress. Obviously, progression. Not to. I've seen coaches just try to rub that real quick, that whiteboard, and then it just you see, oh my god, the guy just he hurt himself even worse because
yeah,
the coach wasn't putting the lifter first, putting the coach's ego or the IG account first. You know what I mean, kind of thing.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So, but yeah, that's look. Obviously, I'm not going to get too specific into it, but I just found that. With the guys, if you're talking about beginners, then yeah, they've got the hip hinge for the deadlift and all that. That's pretty common sense, the basics. I'm not going to go really into the basics here. Everyone can Google that. I don't need me to tell them how to do the deadlift and all that. I don't even put out deadlift or squat videos. There's so many. You just do that in, and there's heaps of them around. What I really like to do is get into the actual mechanics of how the person's built, where the cogs are, where what's stopping them from actually completing that lift, where the form breakdown
Yeah.
is. Okay.
Well, I'm pretty interested in talking about bracing because how you brace for for me, I've played with a few different
Hmm.
sports. Obviously, how you brace for something like a large set of squats in let's say CrossFit, where you're already under some sort of fatigue, versus how you brace for like a 1RM squat in
Yeah.
powerlifting, or in let's say a snatch where it's a dynamic movement, but there are moments of rigidity and moments of flexibility.
Yeah.
Like I feel like bracing is very different in all of those sports.
Yeah.
Can you speak to me a little bit about how you teach bracing and your thoughts on that?
Okay. So with my bracing for powerlifting, is basically just stick a straw in someone's mouth like this. The not just too small. The stick a straw, breathe through the straw,
Yep.
and through your nose, through your mouth, through the straw. Automatically their stomach starts to fill up, not the chest. Okay, So if you stick a straw there, you go. But I get them at the same time to draw that air down into the actual stomach, the diaphragm. Okay.
Fuck, I really wish I had a
Yeah,
straw here to play with
that,
that.
that's my secret rule. I've taught,
Yeah,
and
that's
someone's
awesome.
paid me $100 just to show me how to suck through a straw for a session. And he's like, and then I get him to squat, and he hit a 1RM. You know what I mean? One RM PB. Nice and easy. So just there, and then obviously, and then at the bottom, just extend and push out the belly. When the air's full, then you close your mouth, tighten your mouth, and just block it in and push out through the actual diaphragm, the stomach, push it out. Okay, and that's basically the basics of it, more than ever. There are other ways where people stick the tongue up to the top of the lip and then breathe in. But I just
Yeah.
stick a straw in someone's mouth and get them all day to suck on a straw and just go like that all day. Walk around the house, just even at work, just breathe through the straw. And then
Just teaching them not to
it's
chest
not to
breathe, to
chest breathe,
breathe
yeah.
deep
And
into that
obviously,
belly.
if they're the shoulders rise and all that, then it's right. But now at the same time, the other sports that I've taught, they have to exhale on the actual way up, like the clean. You know what I mean? Like and the like CrossFit, they're doing gazillion reps. They're not going to hold the breath. They'll pass out. Okay, so there is the hold exhale when you're exerting and whatnot. So yeah, it's different in the other sports, and I've seen at some point, yes, you do have to hold, but they will at some point. It's not feasible to keep doing the intra-abdominal pressure. If they're only lifting 40 kilos, but you're doing 400 reps, you're gonna take as much air like a swimmer. So like a goldfish trying to just gulp in that air. You know what I mean? Like if you're doing WODs and stuff, good luck trying to hold that breath for the time, and
Yeah.
then your blood pressure rises. And the next minute, there's an Asian bloke on the floor passed out. Get him that gas mask. But yeah. No, that's
No, that's
yeah,
brilliant.
yeah. Hopefully that helps. But I'm not saying there is right or wrong. It's just different. As we know, specificity comes into it, and we just have to use what is best for that for the end goal at that point. Yeah.
You at your old gym, PTC Sydney, I when I've come and watched you, your gym, they used to do both like raw and geared lifting.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Have you been to my
Um,
gym or yeah?
yes, I have.
Oh, so that okay. So that's why you know me. So,
Yeah,
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 yeah. So
yeah,
I met you. I brought a couple of lifters
yeah.
to a couple of your novice comps that
Oh,
you
no
ran.
wonder your gym sounds familiar. I've seen a lot of gyms go through my gym, and
Yeah.
they all seem to like the setups look so similar. Because I Trent's gym with
So
gym.
I always, I remember my lifters, and one of my lifters, she's like an older lady,
Yeah,
and she competed in PA. She competed with you guys as well,
GPC. Yeah.
and she was always like, oh, I just want to go back to Trent's gym. They're all so nice
Ah,
there, and
yeah,
everyone's so
yeah.
supportive. So they never had anything bad to say about competing at your gym. They all loved it. I only didn't like powerlifting because it takes a bloody whole day to compete.
Ah, yeah. You tell I did 10 comps a year, so basically
Yeah.
every 2 3 weeks I was doing, and I was just over it. You imagine trying to compete and then run comps all the time. I was just like, I
Oh, it would be
I
the
was gonna take
worst.
up fishing for a bit. I started taking up fishing just to get away from it all. I know it's a passion you love, but after a while, it's just like it's 24/7. You're like, nah, this isn't happening.
Well, I always tell my members of the gym and stuff that like I absolutely love training powerlifting
Yeah.
stuff. I hate competing in powerlifting. I hate training weightlifting, but I love competing in weightlifting because it's only like, an hour, 2 hours of your
Yeah,
time.
you don't have to. Yeah, everyone's lifts pretty much just kind of similar, very small increments. Here you got someone going from 40 kilo to 300. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, and
yeah.
the poor loaders and spotters and
I know, I know. I can go into that as well. I think I ran the most comps in New South Wales of any gym in powerlifting. So
I wouldn't be
yeah,
surprised, like, especially, when was that? Like, back in 2015, 16,
yeah,
17. Like, there was a comp, a new, like a beginner comp, like maybe three every year or something, maybe
yeah.
four, one every 3 months.
Yeah, I
It's
know they
pretty
had
good.
the Fed ones and a whole bunch of other ones. So I was doing 10, and yeah, those comps used to. I put the post out saying there's a comp on, and in 24 hours it had 65 people sign up. A couple of people even paid for the full year because they there was a waiting list of 30 people. And
Yeah.
I realized 60 was too much. It just dragged on, and then I just realized I'll cap it at 45 to maybe then 45, just so people can go home. We don't want to get there at 8 and finish at 6 in the afternoon on a Sunday, my poor spotters and loaders, it's just not fair. And even though I had a rotation of a full team of 20, now in saying that, going back to your point, the community that I created was actually the competition community actually stems from actually competing, if it makes sense. So for someone to go through to get a PB, stand on that platform, they understand what the other person is going through when they're training. So there's kind of like a camaraderie or a kinship, if you may call it that, to see where how they're traveling their journey. Everyone's got their own journey when they're trying to get to hit these PBs or PRs or new goals. So that's in my gym. I always advocate, um, if I don't care if the guy's squatting 400, which we have had four guys 400, um, and I don't care if the guy comes in is squatting a kettlebell. I expect the guy who's squatting 400 to come up and say, "Hi, how you doing?" I'd say your name's, Rod. Hey, Rod, how you doing? Is something I can help you with. He might just pass by. It means a lot to these new guys, looking up to these guys who are, have got 300 plus 400 kilogram squats. Even 200 for new guys is a lot. I mean, I forget that 200 kilos is a lot for Gen Pop. I mean, it's only recently when I
Mm.
started coaching people at BodyFit now in the Gen Pop that the other time I was squatting 200, and back in my 200, but no one even cared. Like, just walk by, hey Trent, how you doing? Yeah, I'm just about to hit some couple of reps for 200. You know what I mean? I started doing 100 a couple months ago, and I think the whole gym stopped. That was just on squats, just squatting up and down, up and down. And I didn't think anything of it. Looked around, I was staring, like freaking out, losing their minds. But now reverse that, if they're going to a powerlifting gym, a gen pop guy walks in and he wants to, he set his mind, he wants to have 200 on his back and get shitload stronger, just for health and also strength as well. Then I expect my members to, because I always tell them, we all started from zero, okay, from the bar. Some people start on 8 kilo, 4 kilogram goblet squat. So they know, because I've coached all of them from start to where they are now. So I expect them to return in kind to anyone that comes in to the gym. Okay, but they also at the same time treat that gym as their home. A lot of those guys, because they're there 24 hours a week. 25 hours. It's like a part-time job. They go for work
Just
just to
training.
train, and the stories of under that roof that I've had over the years, it's crazy. The stuff we used to do and the fun we used to have. But yeah, we can get into a bit later as well. So
Oh yeah, I'd love to get into that. Like, I definitely want to go into your history and stuff.
yeah,
I just have a whole bunch of like technique questions that I
yeah.
want to get
Let's
out
get
of
out
the
of the way.
way
Yeah,
as
let's go.
well.
Let's go.
All right. Well, first off, I have a story to tell you because it relates to your gym. Is I remember I brought one of my lifters out. She squatted like 75 kilos. It was a massive
Yeah,
PB for her. She was super happy.
good on her.
And one of these
Yeah,
girls comes over. One of these girls comes over, who was also lifting on there. Like this, she looked pretty young. She was like 65 kilos, and she's like, "Oh, that's awesome work. Like, really good job." and then like next minute I see her on the platform and she's squatting like 225, and I'm like, what the fuck is going on? And it was just amazing to see like someone of that caliber just, come on and be like, yeah, high five, you smashed it. And then she goes up and smashes 225.
Oh, I can't remember who
And
that is now. I've got several girls that squat
uh,
over 200, so I can't remember. Yeah, yeah,
it was always just something like that really, blew me away about how nice everyone was at that gym.
yeah. It goes back to the point. They all started from zero. Okay, so they
Mm.
they could be, further down in that journey than someone else, but the journeys are not the same. They're different. You know what I mean? It's one could be single, and she's got a lot more time to dedicate to lifting when your lifter might have, two, three kids, working, single mum, or whatever it is. There's a lot more to it than. But when people are lifting, it shows the story comes out. So I always advocate people to come up and say hi, regardless. And that's a really that I built that gym specifically to bring people together who love regardless of whatever weight's on the bar. It's more about the camaraderie and the people just getting together and supporting each other. And I know it sounds very cliche and all that, but it's as you run a gym and as all the people come in, it's a different atmosphere to say a commercial gym where everyone's doing different things. You know what I mean? Versus what everyone here has the one goal, which is just to get shitload strong, uh, you know, for themselves. So yeah.
No, that's cool. Look, I've never competed in like geared powerlifting, and to be honest, I use like weightlifting wraps, but I've never really like wrapped my knees properly
Yeah,
with like for squats, or worn a bench shirt or a deadlift suit or any of that
yeah,
stuff. And I've always been interested in talking to someone who has experience in that,
yeah, yeah.
and finding out what are the biggest like technique changes that those pieces of equipment make, and how like what are the programming considerations you make as a strength coach when you're training someone who is like a geared versus raw lifter.
Okay, with now I don't I've done bench. I'm not a equipped lifter coach uh, in the extreme. I've done benching with a shirt and all that. But if you want to get into it, then you probably need to see the West Side guys, or there's other coaches out
Yeah.
there who do that. But if you're talking about wraps and that, then that's fine. I've now considerations is I don't put people into wraps until they show me that they've adequately can squat without looking like a newborn giraffe kind of thing. You know what I mean? If they look like that, you're not gonna. It's like it's like putting a turbo on a little Mazda 121 that's 20 years old. You know what I mean? You're not gonna put that on, and you want to obviously get them stronger naturally. Naturally, I mean without any equipment or even a belt first. I'm old school like that. I don't put belts on them. If you're a guy coming in and you're a goblet squatting, 40 kilos, you weigh 85, 90 kilos, you should not be going anywhere near a belt or even knee sleeves for that matter, unless you've got shitty knees. That's different. But
Yeah.
yeah. So in terms of that, I get them to say, look, the guys before they even get into routes, maybe like a 1.5 double body weight, because there are guys in PA squatting that much, um, IPF squatting that much without wraps. You know what I mean? In knee sleeves. And now you're trying to squat 150, 140, say 160. You say you're 80 kilos, and you're squatting 160. And there's guys in the IPF doing 220 for reps. You know what I mean? So
Mm.
then they go, "Oh, coach, can I put reps?" No, you get yourself stronger. There is a lot more strength that we can obtain without the use of equipment, because the equipment doesn't work actually through the whole range, because it takes out the stretch reflex coming into the hole. As we know, is a bit of the heart of the hardest part of the actual squat is controlling the movement through the actual through the hole as you enter it and coming out as well. Basically because it causes that spring effect from the actual wraps. And that's what wraps are there for. Um, so and then obviously apart from that, it becomes just basically all upper back and through the actual hips to straighten yourself up, get into extension to stand back up. But now, so for the girls, it's like 1.5 for guys, double body weight before I even put them in wraps. But in depends on which phase it is. If it's and obviously sorry, depending which phase. If it's off season, there'll be no wraps whatsoever in off season.
Yeah.
Specificity wise, closer probably 3 months will just be full on wraps. Now even but that depends if they're competing a lot. I'm talking about higher end now. I'm not talking beginners. Beginners, I don't put them in wraps. So, but intermediates, if they're squatting 200 raw without no wraps, then and they want to compete. I get them only compete twice a year, the top guys, because it just burns them out too much. If you're doing triple body weight, you compete 3 months, 3 months all the time. You're gonna burn out. So I start with light wraps, just light wraps, so the really thin ones, okay, not the
Yeah.
strangulators or anything, and just wrap it light when I'm teaching someone new, and just to get them into the groove, because the groove is different. The squat groove is different. So you obviously stand a bit wider, so you can sit more into the
Yeah.
wraps, um, and um, and obviously it does hurt. Like a lot of the girls and guys as well, when I wrapped, even light wraps, it just hurts. It just pinches like a mofo. You know what I mean? So it just really mentally they just start losing all the technique. And that's going back to the getting the raw first, because if the raw and then they can't even squat properly raw, put wraps on and they freak out, they'd start losing. They lose tightness through the core. I mean, through the intra-abdominal area, the upper back, and just everything, bracing, and everything just goes all wrong, and then they go back to being a newborn giraffe kind of thing. The knees collapse and all that. So light wraps, and then each week just get tighter, and then I'll move on towards the last 6 weeks, get onto the strangulators. Some guys I don't even believe should be using strangulators, because they just go, oh look, what's his name uses it. Milanichev uses it. I should use it. You go, you squat 180 kilos at 89 kilos or 90 kilos. You don't need a strangulator right now. Just start using the medium grip ones, like from loaded lifting and
Yeah.
that, and just and then go from there. They some of them get the strangulators, the really hard ones. They crank it, and they can't even get depth, or the tech. The form is just right out there. They're leaning. They get down, and it looks like I'm trying to get down, but I can't get depth. And then you see a lot of. That's why equipped, you see a lot of them get like calls for depth all the time, and this has something to do with it, because they crank it way too
Yeah.
much. It's just like putting a block between your behind your knees, and you're trying to squat onto this massive spring that's just stopping you, and it hurts quite a fair bit as well. So, but that's the considerations I do. So off season, no wraps, closer wraps as well. Get that raw strength up and running. Other coaches might disagree, but that's just how I've done it, and I mean, I don't know. I think most of my guys are squatting triple body weight, like the 70 kilos are squatting 210, 220 without wraps, and then I pump them on wraps, and you just see, wow, they're still hitting at 240, 250 with the wraps on and stuff like that as well.
So how much would you hope to get out of wraps?
Um, Good question. I had this chat with another coach. It's dependent on how proficient they are with the wraps. Okay.
Yeah.
Secondly, so proficiency is the key. Is obviously if they get how the wraps work, and how they to the movement pattern within the actual wraps. So probably around, could be anywhere from excess of 20. I've seen guys get up to 40 kilos on it as well. Now I've seen the bigger guys get a lot more. The lighter guys don't get as much, because the bigger guys, as we know, dive bomb the shit out of it. As so they'll dive bomb their squats. They control it, but they'll
Yeah.
they'll they have that bigger bounce, as we know, of the stretch reflex coming into the hole, so that utilizes that spring a lot more than someone who's lighter as well. So the girls, I've seen it get 10, 15. Medium guys get medium under 100 get around like 20, 25, depending. This is not cranking like a man, crank it with the tongs and
Yeah.
that, trying to get the tongs to crank it. And the bigger guys, right, I've seen like 30 plus. Um, so in that's just my experiences from it depends on the lighter to the heavier. The heavier guys get a lot more as well. So I've seen a raw squat 300. Next minute, I've had a guy squat 320 raw squat, and then next minute 365 on reps, 45 kilos.
Wow. So there is a
Yeah,
big change, and I suppose it also comes down to like what their torso strength is like,
correct,
whether they can, actually hold that amount of weight on
correct.
their
And
back.
that's what I'm talking about, the proficiency and with the reps. I didn't want to get into too much the anatomy stuff, but just proficiency is, are they rigid enough to hold that throughout the movement? Because a lot of them come out and then the tits start pointing to the floor, and then you go, here we go. This is going to be fun. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
because I assume that, like, like you said, it's like a spring behind their
yeah,
knee. So for some people, it might just launch
yeah,
them, like tip them
yeah.
forward,
Oh, look,
right?
it's at the front and the back, and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's think of it like that. It's just sitting there and popping back up. But yeah, I can't really give it accurate, but I just know that guide I use is the lighter guys get less than the heavier guys. So my guys who
Yeah,
squat
cool.
210 put wraps on like two 20 to 30, so 20 kilo, 25. The bigger guys like somewhere up to 30, 40 kilos, just crazy. Because they just their hamstrings just literally touch the calves when they pop out of the
Yeah.
hole. It's the old booty drop that I call it. Yeah.
Can we talk a bit about like PEDs and how you consider that in a program?
Oh yeah, sure. With the PEDs, the as we know, PEDs they help you recover a lot more. So then and obviously they can they can change more. They can train more frequently as well. So now, in terms of if I get someone who's doing 4 days, I'll pump them onto 5 days, maybe 5.5 days. Half days meaning the half days are for active recovery and just doing assistant stuff. Now, in terms of they can actually handle more volume as well. So we're talking about instead of say squats where I've got them doing 3 by 8, I'll get them doing 5 by 8, if that makes sense. So the volume has gone
Yeah.
up, the total tonnage has gone up in that regards, and they'll recover from it. Now, as with PDs, I'm sure people have been googling the shit. Is your joints and your tendons and your ligaments do not uh, get as strong as your muscles, musculature, and connective tissue do when you're on PEDs. Okay, so it's like one goes up, the other, and the ligaments and joints in that are still here. This mofo, what is he doing? And he's loading your muscles. Your chest is increased so much that you start loading the weight a lot more on, but your joints and your tendons are going, Jesus, we're still down here, but now you're loading 300 when you went from 250. Now you're going to 300 in the matter of like 4 or 5 weeks or 6 weeks, but we can still only handle 250. You know what I mean? So it's very it's something that I also take consideration when I'm training clients with PED. So apart from the frequency, it's the tonnage or the volume that are increased. So even the leg press, if they're doing 2 sets of 25, when they're on PEDs, they're doing 2 sets of 50 uh,
Yeah.
reps. Kind of, they can just handle it more during the hyper phase, hypertrophy phase that I put people on. And then I monitor it from there. I see a lot of it just recover, like, and they just uh, obviously other things like nutrition rest and all that. The basics have to be. I'm just saying, if they're on track, then I'll crank up the programming side of that as well. Obviously, the
Yeah.
other two
And
considerations that we assume is on track. You know what I mean? Yeah.
yeah. So you mentioned before, obviously, that especially with things like anabolics, your tendons and ligaments do not get stronger at the same rate that the musculature does, and that's why we often see people that are on PEDs have things like tears of their tendons and
Correct.
ligaments. Also, things like tendinopathies can be a huge problem for people on
Yeah.
PEDs. Um, what I would, what I was going to ask you is, like, you mentioned that you've taken them from like smaller sets to larger sets on things like their leg press. Do you tend to keep them in a hypertrophy phase for longer when they're on PEDs? Because we know that rehabilitation or prehabilitation for tendons and ligaments is high rep work, or like time under
Correct,
tension.
correct. So I'll be doing a lot of toot work and time and attention and um, unilateral isometric stuff uh, that during that hypertrophy phase. But usually my hyper phases run for around, generally for the raw guys, around 4 5 weeks with a taper in the depending on how they're traveling. Um,
Yeah.
Correct. You're correct in saying that for the guys on, I run them for 5 6 weeks. 6 weeks. The hyper phase. They're just because they just like, and then just crank up the tonnage because they can handle it. And obviously, as we know, bigger base, bigger the pyramid gets as we start peaking later on. And we know
Good old Louis
good old
Simmons
Louis
loves to
Simmons,
say
yeah.
that.
But it's true. The base of the pyramid, shitty base, shitty peak later on. Not gonna.
Yeah.
It's just gonna start showing those weaknesses. But yeah, I do extend it as well. But at the same time, it's dependent on the lifter, if how the other factors like work stress, the rehab, um, yeah, and the prehab and all that comes into to play as well. So if I need to shorten it to 4, I will shorten. But most of them, yeah, do run around 6 weeks. So six for a 12 would be like a 6 4 and then 2 weeks of peaking, for example, just to find the
Yeah.
openers. But 4 weeks of strength after the hyper. So hypertrophy strength and then just onto the peaking for a bit.
Does their strength does their strength block look any different to what someone who would be uh like not on PEDs?
Yes, it's sort of like strength. Sort of like 4 sets of 5, for example, on the strength for a natty. For PDs, I'll crank him to 6 sets of 5 or something. It's bordering on
Okay.
hypertrophy,
Yeah.
but but
But they can
they can
handle it.
handle it, yeah. And also, I work on RPE as well, so I don't just use the weights. And I'll actually on the RPE, I might set the strength phase for the natty guys at 7.5 to from about 8, around 8 on the RPE. But with the guys who are on, it could change week to week. It's like 8.5 to I'll be doing ramping sets. So first set might be 100,
Yeah.
102.5, just to find out where they are at, and then obviously that carries on to next week. We can bump up the numbers a bit, which at the end for us coaches gives us projected max, which is a lot higher during that. If the strength phase they're building and you're expecting to be here, but they're reaching these, that means your projected max isn't here anymore. It's up there, isn't it? So
Yeah.
that's how I do it. And I haven't been wrong with that. Like I go 2 weeks out, I'll know what they're going to hit on the platform before we even hit the peaking phase when we're doing the doubles and triples and stuff like that. We
With their predicted maxes, does that change when you have someone who is on PEDs versus someone who's raw? Like I can kind of look at something like a 2 RM, and from there I can be like, okay, if I can hit it for 2, then my predicted
Yeah,
max is probably like a little bit
yeah.
more. But for someone on PEDs, would that be like a lot greater, a lot less?
I find that the guys are on a lot more. Not much more, probably
Okay.
five. I would say percentage five more. Some if the natty ones are 100, the PD guys are on 105, 107. Also, a lot of
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of out there, a lot of PDUs, they abuse the shit out of it closer to comp, like the ones because they're not drug tested, so they might just ramp the shit out more substance into their bodies. Look, I'm not a PED expert. Um, I mean, I myself have used it as well. Um, uh, Basically, but when later in my 30s, late 30s, I had a low test, went to the doctor. I was like, oh, you got test issues, as we over 30s do. I'm over 40 now. Go me with my low test. So, a lot of guys will. I always stayed at a certain rate, like just maintenance. But this if this is your maintenance, some might actually bump up towards the comp that much, double or even triple the amount, closer to
Yeah.
as the pyramid goes up for the peak. They'll actually increase the actual amount that they're taking, and now that actually throws in. It's like you um, cranking up the turbo on the car. I don't know if there's car enthusiasts out there. Like there's a setting where it's like say running at 10 psi. Then obviously you crank it to 16. Just to get the bit more, but obviously at the same time, the drawbacks are, the engine might blow up and stuff. But if that aside, that's what a lot of that's what affects the actual outcome at the end as well.
Yeah.
So that's why I do ramping sets, because as they ramp the actual substance in, you need to keep up programming with that, if it makes sense. Because
Yeah,
in
no, it does.
natty, it's consistent. It's like this. Whereas if the PED guys, if they go up, they'll crank up the their intake, and obviously that means they'll be eating more and training even harder. You need to keep that programming to go with it. That's where the RPE does come in quite handy. Look, I do RPE with the natty guys as well, but with the geared guys, the PED guys, you definitely need that, because it'll just spike all of a sudden. One week, just 100. Next 2 weeks, 3 weeks later, they're doing 150 for reps. Massive jump. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yep.
I haven't
Hello.
lost you, have you? You're still here? Oh, cool. Yeah. Sorry. It
Yeah,
just
yeah.
like looked
Good.
like it
Yeah.
froze, so I freaked out.
Yeah, yeah. That's all right.
um, yeah. Are there any other big things that you take into account when you're programming for natty guys versus people on PEDs? Because it's always so. This is obviously a topic that a lot of people shy away from talking about, but it's always
Oh,
interested
yeah,
me because
yeah,
like on one side of the fence, one of the sports that I love and I've started competing in, strongman, and obviously certain federations of powerlifting are untested,
yeah,
where it's kind of okay. But then I compete in Olympic weightlifting where it is tested, and we're
yeah,
finding, you know, that there's differences in the testing all over the world. So
yeah,
there's huge, and it doesn't come as a surprise that there are problems with that too. But
yeah,
one thing that you mentioned earlier is that people competing in untested federations, they may ramp up their use coming into a competition, whereas in weightlifting they're probably doing the opposite. They're
that's
ramping
why
down as
they're
they
doing
come
the
towards a
opposite.
competition.
Yeah, it goes backwards, because then they put
Mm,
the masking agents and all that as well. So you so you see them, they don't always show what they're lifting in the Olympic lift. They don't show what they're lifting in training, because it's a
yeah.
shitload more than what they did on the platform, because they're running, and then they're yeah, I've spoken to a few. I don't want to name them, but I've spoken to a few Olympic lifters from Australia, and they're just like, oh, we used to take this and take this and take this. And then close to the cot, we used to, piss out all this shit and all the other stuff. I was just like, oh yeah, oh well. And he goes, yeah, strength started
Uh,
going a bit.
I've talked to old timey Australian weightlifters before, never on the podcast,
Yeah,
and
no.
sometimes they've told me that they were on things and whatnot, and I'm like, I can't believe that you guys are the people that are you know pushing for like clean athletes, clean sports. Now, when you guys were part of the problem, you started all of this crap.
It's always gonna be there. It's never gonna go away. It's as long as there's
Do you think it's something that's stuck?
sorry.
Do you think it's something that's going to stay around in weightlifting? Because obviously we're going through a funny phase with, do you know much about what's happening with Olympic weightlifting right now?
I stay out of the whole politics. It's got nothing to do with
Okay.
me. Yeah,
No, yeah. Look,
yeah,
it has nothing to do with a lot of us, but it is
yeah.
interesting to see, there've been more reports coming out. The IWF president has now stepped down because of accusations of, payments being made and taken. It's like a movie, man. It's like mafia stuff.
Like I always say, people like there are no drugs in Olympic lifting. There are no drugs in cycling. Okay, Lance Armstrong, just take it easy. For 10 years, thousands of or hundreds of tests or whatever he did. Then he get busted with one. You know how he got done? You know how he got done? He got snitched on.
Yeah.
That was it. So that settled my case with the whole thing. And I don't really get into it because end of the day, if someone's offering you sponsorship, Nike offering you, Andy, if I told you or anyone, I'm going to give $80 million and a sponsorship if you come first in the 100-meter race, for example, or just say you clean and jerk 200 something, whatever. I don't care what it weighs. I'll give you $80 million in Nike sponsorship. What are you going to do? You're going to bend over and you're going to take so much shit up that bum. I'll just be like, stick it all in me, stick it all in me. I'll be training 7 days a week, twice a day. Just stick it all in me, okay? And yeah, to keep that sponsorship. So you're
Yeah,
a sponsor, yeah. One of those things, isn't it?
it is, and those people that are at the top that are competing, like they've got such a drive to compete, and you often hear this like, would you, if you knew for sure that you would cut 10 years off your life, but you'll get this gold medal, a lot of those top athletes would just be like, okay, where do I go? Is it a guillotine? Is it like how do I cut my head off?
Yeah, pretty much, pretty much.
Uh,
Look, I think some people want to leave a legacy, like,
yeah.
uh, and that's their life. They want to live the way it is. Not everyone wants to go get to 90 years old sitting in a. Me especially, I don't want to sit 90 years old sitting in a wheelchair and looking and going, look at that over there, and you know, my hair's all falling out, my face is all drooped, my teeth are falling out, kind of thing. And I think there's people, it's a different mindset. So comes out of mindset on how they want to live their life. And some people want to be the best they can be. And then, at the same time, obviously leave a legacy behind it. I was the first man to, run 8 point something seconds, whatever it is. I don't care what it is, or snatch, 300 kilos, whatever it may be the first man and like that kind of thing. So for them to get there, obviously we know the PEDs have to come in at a certain point. I say have to because it has to. Um, once you start, even if they're gifted genetically, it's just it has to come in at a certain point to take them to keep them going. Whether yeah,
So do you think that if we look at the high level of, I guess, any strength sport, that they are all on the gear?
high level, I would say so. Yes, and I know so, but because I've met a lot of those top guys, but I'm not gonna obviously name who they are. But what I don't get is shaving years of your life. I know when I was at the gym running it, I used to go, oh yeah, take it, it's fine. If you want to take it, it's fine. I never used to sell in all that stuff to them. It's just basically they go, look, coach, can I take this? Go, if you look, where are you at now? Your lifts are here, you're here. Yeah, I reckon you're ready for it. You can take it. But But at the same time, I also give them the warning. You know, this is what it's going to do to you. This is what I'm not. If you tell someone to not take it, they're still going to take it. But at least what we can do is give them information to be cautious and safe. Now, at the same time, the top guys generally have to take it because genetics can only take you so far, and then the point of diminishing returns is like that old, put in $1 and you get like 1 cent back kind of thing. You put in all this
Yeah.
time, so obviously with the taking the PEDs, you put $1, you get 10 cents back instead of 1 cent. Okay, so that's then, and as the bodies their bodies, top sports, you only have, I think, maybe 10 years at the most. Like the Chinese, they start lifting when they're 6. They're world champions by 16, and then I think two Olympics. Is it 2 or 8 years or something? They're out already. Not many of them last up to 30. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Unless you're Lou,
Yeah,
and
Lou.
then you're
Yeah,
breaking records at
Lou's a
35.
different kettle. He's still going, but how many of them, are still going? You see
Yeah.
two Olympics and they're out. Like it's 8 years, 10 years. That's it. They're out. You know what I mean? So they only have a limited amount of time. So obviously taking it will get their progress a lot quicker. Even if it's going to shave 10 years of their life off, or 5, or whatever it may be. So yeah. Live dangerously now and worry about the shit later. I think at the end of the day, like there are people out there who just take shitloads of drugs. You know what I mean? Like doing shitloads of drugs, but they're not really achieving anything. So I compare it to that. Like they're actually doing something. They're they're pushing the boundaries of what a human can do. And then you've got these other guys who walk out there, see these junkies out there walking around off their heads. And they're like, "Jesus, this guy's not gonna." Looks like he's 60 when he's only 25 years old. You know what I mean? There's different spectrums. I'm not saying they're any better, but at least they're doing something that we can see them achieving a high level, that pushing the boundaries of where a human can take while they're on as well. So yeah, that's just my take on that whole thing, anyway. So
No, it's always very interesting, and I've heard, I've heard people like Louis, for example, talk about steroids to no end, and how they should just be allowed, and all of that, and it seems like you share a lot of those
yeah,
ideologies, in the sense that, like, everyone's doing it already. Why are we putting up some sort of fast that it's not happening?
yeah, it's true. Look, at the end of the day, it's a health thing. The government has the actual right thing to do. Otherwise, we just have little kids running around. If it was legal over the counter, we got the 12-year-olds starting to do their little, high school marathons and sprints, and they're taking so much gear, just to win that, because people will do that just
Yeah.
to get better than the next guy next to you in your classroom.
Yeah, and that's 100% it. It's so different when it's an adult making an informed
Yeah,
decision to do
yeah,
something. But in a lot of countries, like you said, in China and stuff, like, sports are started at a young age, are expected to compete at a high level at a
correct.
young age. So these kids may not have the opportunity to to think about things, or to have the mental capacity to make decisions like this. Then the decisions are being made
Not at
for
6
them.
years old.
Yes.
I was thinking even
Uh,
at 6 years old, but yeah, yeah.
For sure. Can you tell me a bit about how you even started, like, getting into strength sports? Like, what did you do as a kid?
Oh me, well, I was very active young. I just played soccer and you know, soccer and basketball and pretty much all those sports, tennis and all that. I was very active. My parents was back then. I mean, I'm 43, so back then when I was a kid, there was a lot of us would go outside and play. Not like nowadays, where a lot of the kids, like my daughter, just sits at home like this all day on TikTok or whatever it is they're doing now.
I was just about to ask, are you not about that
No, I'm
TikTok
not
life?
about that. My daughter's on it and she does it. But yeah, so it's different gen back then. So we're just always out and about. What I do? I got into. So I played soccer for a while, and then after uni, I started. I got into bodybuilding. So I did my first comp when I was 21, 22. Uh, yeah, and then I did another comp. I didn't do quite well. I didn't have a coach. I just winged it, just read stuff. And the information back then was,
Forums.
yeah, forums and Flex magazine and Muscle Fitness. It wasn't specific. It was just like basically you download a program and like everyone else does,
Yeah.
and just do it. Hope for the best kind of thing. So, I think, and then after that, I met, yeah, you know, Marcos from PTC Frankston or PTC headquarters.
I don't know him. I know I've heard
Oh,
of
you
him.
you don't know Marcos? He's the godfather of
No.
powerlifting in Australia. So
Yeah. No. So I know
yeah,
of him. I don't know him
yeah, no, no.
personally. I
Okay,
know.
so
Yeah.
yeah, you yeah, if you know of him, then yeah, he talked to him on the forum as actually that forum that you looked up. That was him, and from there, so that's I just thought, oh, strength training, something different because you don't really have to diet. You know what I mean? Unless
As every powerlifter ever
yeah,
gets into the
yeah,
sport, like, oh, you don't have to
you
diet
don't
for
have to
this.
diet.
This is
You just
amazing.
get stronger as you get too closer to comp. When I was doing bodybuilding, I was weak as shit. Like I could have even benched, 70 kilos. It's at the start of the prep, I was repping 100 and got down to 70 for a couple, and I was just dying. A couple of weeks out, like trying to do the same thing. So it was like, oh, maybe there's something different. And I see all these guys like 60, 70 kilos lifting, they're lifting 200 plus. I'm like, wow, and that was at his garage back then, back at 10 plus years ago. And I was like, oh, okay. So then I went to visit him down there, and the rest is history, as they say. Opened up. Uh,
Fell in love with it.
yeah. It was like just it was, you know what it was? It was the atmosphere that I keep talking about, the atmosphere and the camaraderie. He had like 20, 30 people inside this double garage, and they'll take turns lifting. One finish, and the other guy will get the hell out, and other guy goes in. It's like it just rotates around. We got lifted, one guy finished, the other guy helps unrack and goes back out, waits outside the garage, and comes back in. 20 people just doing that, and they drove from
Wow.
everywhere within Victoria. Talking about an hour and a half, through thousands of gyms just to train at this little garage with like two squat racks and a bench. You know what I mean? So that you're onto something good when you see that. You know what I mean? It's something that you don't have at gyms back then, the commercial gyms.
And is that the real reason why you really wanted to start a PTC in Sydney?
Yeah, that's pretty much it. There was none. I asked, and oh, there was a few other gyms, but they weren't in Sydney, if it makes sense. They were
Yeah.
outside, one in Newcastle and stuff. But they're all like independent, and they weren't specifically catered for powerlifting slash weightlifting. Yeah, so I just wanted to build the mecca of where, because you get lifters, all these strength people just training out of commercial gyms or at home, just dots everywhere. And as soon as it opened, it started to draw them closer in to like a central point where they could all train together. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's pretty much. I didn't know at the time. It's open up, and then I had two people join, and then by end of the year, I had 100 clients. I was just like, wow, okay, I think we need to move.
So were you not always in Lidcombe? Where did you
Oh, it's
open
just
up
at a
first?
little garage.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
and then it was at the it was at Silverwater before Lico. Silverwater was like, I think 180. It was in between two mechanics, and just people go there and go, "What the hell? You open a gym here?" But powerlifters get it. You know what I mean? They get it. Strength
Yeah.
athletes get it. They don't care about the mirrors and shit. They just want to go in there. It was dusty. It had cobwebs here and there, but it was just machines were like from 1960. The weights, they just heard the clanging of the weights, and the guy comes in and goes, "Yep, I'm signing up." Because he just saw, four guys deadlifting, and just having a party. And I was just like,
And it's different now that people are used to warehouse
yeah,
gyms. But in the
nah,
past, like, around that 2011 time would have been like the starting of that peak of
correct,
CrossFit and
correct,
things.
absolutely.
So it's like right time,
No
right
time, right
place.
place,
Like,
yeah. But no one really had, no one really wanted to stick their neck out to get it started. You know what I mean? Because it was like, what the hell? You're gonna open it? When I said I was opening my gym in a little warehouse, mate's wife, and I'm like, what the hell? Is something wrong? You quit your job to open in a warehouse like this? It's like, why don't you?
because you were in IT
Yeah,
before,
yeah.
right?
Yeah, I was an IT project manager in Commonwealth Bank. You know, making quite a fair bit, and I just like quit that and just went to open. But yeah, I was just over sitting my ass, pretty much, looking at the computer screen all day. It's just, it just got sick of it, really. You know, turning up, and it didn't really make you happy. I guess when you go to work and you start grinding your teeth, and you know, you're like, oh, I just want to shoot myself every day, something different. And
Yeah,
now it's what 15 years, coming up 15 years now. So,
you never looked back.
nah, I never look back. So too much, yeah. I just got to jet in around 10 minutes.
That's cool.
We
Can
can
we?
continue another time if you want.
That's all right. I mean, we can start wrapping things
Yeah.
up. I guess the next thing I want to talk about is you having to shut down PTC and what sort of went on there with you getting locked up and
Ah,
stuff as well.
yeah. Basically, I was going through a messy separation with my ex of 15, and so the gym I had opened three gyms. One of them went bankrupt, and I was just like, oh Jesus, I don't know how I'm going to pay for it. You know what I mean? Because I had the other two to support, and I was just like, okay. And
So sorry, do you mind me asking where the
oh, so
three gyms were? Because I
one was
only
at
know of
Canberra,
PTC
and
Sydney.
one was at Sydenham.
Okay,
Sydenham in the yeah.
okay,
So I was like, oh, okay, well, I don't know how to pay for this, and I was working long hours at Lidcombe trying to run that, and I was just juggling, and then I had my separation going on, and then I started just doing a lot of drugs like coke and marijuana and stuff. I think it's just a coping mechanism as well. And then one guy offered me to start selling, coke and coke and sleeping tablets and stuff, and I was just like, there you go. Look, you can make money and keep your gyms alive until you fix it and all that. And it just snowboarded from there. And I started selling just to basically keep my habits up as well because I had a habit. I think it's just one of those things where I stuck my head in a hole and I thought, I'm not some make excuse, but I guess a lot of people do it. Uh, they either go to alcohol or drugs or something, and I did that. It's not a part of my life that I'm proud of. But at the same time, I'm happy that I learned from it now, and it's actually made me I think it's made me a better person. Um, so obviously I got busted and I got sent away for a year and a half um, on it. Um, I think looking back in my time away inside, I had a lot. When you're inside, you have a lot of time. You just sit there all day. There's nothing really much to do. You sit in this little cell and this little window, and it's like two by 3 meters. Sit there all day, and I wrote down a lot of things that I did wrong, where I could change as a coach. How do I get better? And I wrote all that down and basically even started programming and just revisiting old programs that write it from scratch. You just go, this is where I need to do this. Where you have a lot of time in those 18 months when you're not constantly on the go. When you're not moving, go
yeah.
go go, you get to sit back and go, this is what I need to adjust. So that was pretty much it. So obviously, when I'm not there, the gyms had to close because no one's running it, no one's paying the bills. My partner Megan. She was there. I don't know if she's met her, but she's my partner. She's and my current. She's still my partner now. She was running the gym for a long time, for 6 7 months. Um, but she was working 2 jobs and a sick grandmother and all that. So it's really hard. Um, and I do appreciate everything she's done even to today. But yeah, it's just for someone to run it who's never run a gym, it's a lot very hard. So, but it just closed down, and that's basically it. All the equipment went. No, I'm not opening another one. If anyone asks,
That was going to be my
I
next
get asked
question.
all the time. You don't know. When I got out, the first thing was, "Hey Trent, open another PTC." I was like, I don't know because let's put it this way. Right now, with my online and what I'm making now in terms of the time versus the money I'm making more money than I am now when I had that gym. But the time I'm putting into the time I'm actually working now to get even more money than I used to have is a lot less. I used to work 7 days a week at PTC, but here I'm only doing like Monday to Friday, 9 to 5,
Yeah.
and that's pretty pretty good for a trainer if it makes sense. Like a lot of trainers get up at 6 in the morning, finish at 7 at night. I I don't do that anymore. It's just hybrid model, online and in person. That's
Yeah. Very few overheads
oh
compared to what you probably had
zero zero.
before.
Oh, there's nothing.
No
What
staff. Like,
breakdown? There's nothing breakdown. The lap pull down's broken down. There's the water's the toilet's broken. I don't see any of that. So yeah, no, it's that's what happened. It's pretty much the brief notes of what happened. Yeah.
well, dude, I really appreciate you coming on. And I know that last bit was something that I was actually really interested
Yeah.
in. So maybe we can revisit it
Yeah. Look,
on
I haven't
another
really
podcast.
spoken
I'm
to.
sure after I release this
Yeah, I
one,
haven't spoken to anyone
there'll
really about
be
it.
a whole bunch of
Yeah.
questions.
I'm sure you've got a lot more to ask. Yeah, I'm just building a whole bunch of bench presses at the moment for people.
Yeah, I saw. That's really
Yeah,
cool.
yeah. And I told my clients, and then I just did a couple. And next minute, I'm building five now. I just built one, and I put it on my Instagram. Next minute, I had like two DMs going, "Can I buy one off you?" I was just like, "What?" I was like, "All right, fine, I'll make it for you." And then I had the squat racks out of the little tubes, the little buckets.
Yeah.
Had two orders for that, and the lat pull down. I'm making that as well. Do DIY. A whole setup costs like $200 for squat rack, bench, and the lat pull down. You can't.
That's
That's
legit.
legit. Like bench
Um,
presses are $450 now.
oh yeah, oh, dude, right now you can be making bank if you're selling equipment.
Nah. I'd rather be doing other stuff than.
Uh, where can people find you if they want to reach out or if they just want to bench?
Uh, it just hit me up at Miyagi Strength, Mr. Miyagi Strength on IG, okay, Instagram or even on Facebook, Miyagi Strength as well. But those are I'm very active on those on Facebook and Instagram more so.
Cool,
Yeah,
dude. I hope you enjoyed that episode. I hope you love Trent just like I do. We will definitely be doing a round two because I'm sure both you guys and me, well, I definitely do, have so many more questions for him. If you like this episode, please give it a share on all of your social medias. That's how this podcast grows. And if you really want to support us, you now can. Making this podcast is so much fun. I learn from so many interesting people, but it runs on your donations. And you can help us keep going. All we're asking for is the price of a coffee. Basically, if every single person donated a coffee, we'd have enough money to keep this podcast going for another few months. Thank you to everyone who's already donated. And if you want to donate, just go to rawbarbellclub.com/donate. There is a link in the description below as well that you can find. So thank you again to everyone who has already donated. Lastly, guys, if you're interested in getting some thumb tape, we have that in stock. The Weightlifting House thumb tape, best thumb tape in the world. It's sticky, leaves zero residue, and it tears so damn easily. Each box of three comes with each box comes with three 22-inch rolls, so it's the best value for money thumb tape on the market. We're also doing a pre-order for Weightlifting House barbells. So if you're interested in getting a barbell, especially now that we're all training at home, please consider going on the line and buying one. All you have to do is go to rawbarbellclub.com and look at our store. You'll see it there. If you have any more questions about barbells, please feel free to DM me. And guys, you can find Raw Barbell Club at Raw Barbell Club on all of our social medias. So that's Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. We're doing a whole bunch of online programming. We've got, basically 4 coaches on staff who are, crossfitting experts, powerlifting experts, weightlifting experts, people that are into strongman. We've got a physiotherapist now because Kush is back. So we can really help you with so much of your programming needs, and all you have to do is reach out. Guys, thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you next week. Goodbye. Supersonic.